Hey there. On today's episode, I'm going to be going over M.O.D.O.K's expansion to determine whether he's an evil genius or just Humpty Dumpty ready to fall off the wall. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. As usual, we'll start off with M.O.D.O.K's character card. He has the alter ego of George Tarleton, has an astounding 10 stamina, has the movement speed of short, has a size 4 character, and has a threat value of 5. His physical defense is only 2, but his energy and mystical defenses are both at 3. As for M.O.D.O.K's attacks, he has 2, and both of them are actually really strong. His first one is Psionic Blast. It's a mystical attack with range 4, strength 6, and a power cost of 0. Like many other strikes, it has the ability to gain this character power equal to the amount of damage dealt, and it also on a wild gains sap power. Before damage is dealt, the target character loses 1 power for each wild rolled in the attack roll, and this character gains that amount of power. So plenty of ways for him to get power back on this attack. And his second attack is Doomsday Chair. It's a physical attack with also range 4, but a strength of 7 and a power cost of 3. It has the ability of Whirling Blades. After this attack is resolved, this character may make an additional Doomsday Chair attack without paying the power cost. The additional attack must target another character within range 2 of the original target character, and it does not gain the Whirling Blade special rule. So basically it's like Captain America's shield throw, but you don't have to get a wild to trigger it. As well, on a wild, M.O.D.O.K applies the bleed condition to the target. M.O.D.O.K's superpowers all have funny names, but they're also all quite strong. His first one is an active superpower that costs 2. It's called Bow to the Will of M.O.D.O.K. Choose an enemy character within range 3. You get to advance that character short. Unfortunately, you can't use this multiple times on the same character in a turn, but you can use it on multiple enemy characters in a single go. His next superpower is also active, called Imbecile. All the world is a weapon to M.O.D.O.K. It also has a power cost of 2 and is basically his throw. He's able to choose a terrain feature that is size 3 or less within range 3 of M.O.D.O.K, and then he gets to throw it long, which is just a little bit over 7 inches. As with most other throws, this is a superpower that can only be used once per turn. M.O.D.O.K's next ability is actually reactive. It's called P-Brain. M.O.D.O.K's genius is infinite. It has a power cost of X, which is a little bit unique, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what this ability does is after this character attacks or rolls defense dice, it may spend any amount of power to use this superpower. For each 1 power spent, this character may reroll one of its own attack or defensive dice. So the reason there isn't a hard set number on this power is so that you can use it as many times as you want during a reroll step, because unlike Crossbones' Endure to Pain ability, which has a static 1, which means that he can only use that ability once in a particular instance of taking damage. M.O.D.O.K's last superpower, and maybe his best, is a passive one called Psionic Forcefield. It allows him, when defending against an attack, the character changes all wild results to blanks. Alright, so M.O.D.O.K does a lot. While his movement speed is only short, he's still able to get around pretty easily because of his large base size. As well, all of his attacks are quite strong, and it makes it worth mentioning that he is the only character with a mystical attack at this point. So he's going to be the only one who can exploit the character's weaknesses on that blue defense. His superpowers also make him extremely versatile, being able to advance enemy characters, throw terrain, reroll dice, not to mention straight up cancel hits on the attack rolls coming towards him. All of this makes M.O.D.O.K seem like a bargain at just 5 threat. And that's true until Humpty Dumpty falls off his wall. That is to say, when M.O.D.O.K gets dazed, things get rough. His attacks and superpowers he retains all stay the same, but his stamina goes from 10 down to 4, and he loses that force field that makes him so invincible, making him a much squishier target. But it's not all bad for M.O.D.O.K. He has a lot of things going for him still. Where other characters have a range 2 strike to get them some power back from an attack, M.O.D.O.K has a range 4 strike with strength 6. And on a wild, gets even more power back from sap power. And while he cannot throw other characters, he can make them advance where he wants, but he can still chuck terrain, and he might as well try out for quarterback because he can throw things long, and he's the only character in the game that can do that so far. And well, rerolling dice at the cost of power, that's the faction ability for Wakanda, so just having it on a character seems really good. Then Psionic Forcefield is just stupid good. It'll help him in ignoring damage, status effects, and even being pushed around because the wild will be changed to a blank before those abilities even get a chance to trigger. For his downsides, he has 5 threat, which is not too huge a downside on its own, but when he is weakest to the most common type of attack in physical, it may mean he may not stick around on the table as long as you'd like. And once Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall, I'm not expecting him to make it until the end of the round when he stands backed up from getting dazed. As well, this evil genius is power hungry, as most of them are, between his big attack and all of his powers, not to mention the team tactic cards that require him to be the one to pay power to activate. Now let's go ahead and get into those. The first card in M.O.D.O.K's expansion is Psychic Fortress. It's unaffiliated, has the active time frame window, and requires M.O.D.O.K to spend 3 to play this card. M.O.D.O.K gains cover as well as all allied characters within range 4 of M.O.D.O.K until the end of the round. It's worth noting that this card doesn't require an affiliation, unlike some of Hulk's, which is a really nice touch. And this card is just good. It's probably a card that I'm going to include in my roster of 8, even if I'm not sure if M.O.D.O.K's going to be making the table every single game, because a guaranteed block for all models within 8 inches of M.O.D.O.K's already big base seems well worth the 3 power you have to spend to play it. The next card is Aim Lackeys. It is also unaffiliated and has the active time frame window. It also requires M.O.D.O.K to spend 3 power to play the card. You get to choose another allied character anywhere on the table, and that character may perform a move action as an additional action during its next activation this round. The wording there gets a little bit weird, but basically you can play this card whenever, even in the middle of a current character's activation, and give them that extra move as long as the target character is at M.O.D.O.K. All that to say, the pros is there are still no additional affiliation requirements, which is quite nice, and M.O.D.O.K can spend the power to make any model book it across the table with no range restriction. The downside is it almost feels like a one-time use of Red Skull's teleport ability that takes up one of your team tactic card slots, and it's not too great for the characters that only move short. The final card is Recalibration Matrix. This is the card in the pack that actually doesn't require M.O.D.O.K on the table in order to play it. It is also unaffiliated, and it's a reactive card. When an allied character is attacking or defending, before the calculate successes or failures step at the end of the modify dice step of the attack, it may spend 3 power to play this card. The attacking and defending characters reroll all of their attack and defense dice. To me, the pros and cons on this card are the same. The card is a gamble at the end of the day. Rerolling everything with no additional modifications after that roll is just that, a gamble. So there are times where I've used like Iron Man and Friday AI on a Unibeam to only have one of those attacks give up like 1 or 2 results and the opponent blocks them all. At which point a total reroll isn't a bad idea since Iron Man doesn't have ways to modify his dice anyway, but I didn't have the extra 3 power in those situations also. So at the end of the day, offense or defense, it's a gamble for 3 power. Sometimes it'll do work and other times it's going to be a waste of your resources. So in summary for M.O.D.O.K, I think whenever you put him on the table, he's always going to do work. He's a character that your opponent can try to ignore, but with his Doomsday Chair being 2 Strength 7 attacks for just 3 power, I think his damage output is too strong to ignore. Not to mention, if he doesn't have that enemy within range 2 for the second attack, M.O.D.O.K can just use his first superpower to move an enemy into range. So if he cannot be ignored, then he is also difficult to take down because he has a good bit of stamina and that passive force field. Not to mention giving the extra durability from something like Psychic Fortress being played. He is still a pretty power-hungry character at the end of the day, but a Psionic Blast a turn will probably net you a couple power between the damage dealt and the sap power triggers. He is still Humpty Dumpty though. Because he is a character that requires the enemy to take action to make sure M.O.D.O.K isn't getting too much value, I'd have him at the edge of his range 4 attacks and just pick away at the enemy. As well, I will definitely be using M.O.D.O.K when I'm running the Cabal because he gets 2 power back from his Doomsday Chair from Red Skull's leadership ability, since Whirling Blades gets to count as a separate attack. So, those are my thoughts on M.O.D.O.K. For now, he is going to make my cut for the top 10 characters I bring to the table, especially if I'm running with the Cabal. If he is making your top cut, let me know who you were cutting for him down below. And if you've enjoyed the video, let me know by hitting that like button. It seems to make sense. And if you're looking for more Marvel Crisis Protocol, consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll keep coming out with more. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.